Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Candice. Today our lighting is much different because it is not yet sunrise out around here. So we're just gonna roll with it. Before we get started on our video, we're gonna go ahead and pray for it and then we'll talk about it and dive right in. God, thank you so much for making us in your image, both men and women, and giving us traits that are of you. Like, we as women express your traits, but in a feminine way, and it's such a beautiful thing, and the world needs it. Thank you so much for making us essential to your plan and essential to the world, and for giving us purpose and life. I ask that you would make these words yours, not mine, that you would bring anybody to this video who'd like to hear it, and that you would bless them immensely through it. I ask these things in Jesus Christ's name. Okay. So today, our video, we are talking about 4 tips for staying in a feminine mindset, right? As a Christian woman, staying in, like a feminine energy mindset, not in a new agey way, but like in the Christian way. I did a video explaining the difference between, feminine energy and masculine energy from a Christian perspective. I'll try and link that around here somewhere, or I'll throw it down in the description box. Go watch that if you haven't seen it yet. And this video will probably make way more sense if you watch that one first. All right. So 4 tips. The first tip, of course, for staying in a feminine mindset, because let's face it, as women, when we do not have a good example of healthy, godly masculinity in our lives, okay, if that role is not fulfilled by a man in our life, right? It is very easy and tempting as women to just like shift ourselves into stepping into that role and taking on that mindset, that provider, competitive, getting things done, initiating, just super large and in charge sort of mindset. This is where you get like boss babes and stuff like that from stepping into a masculine mindset. And as we talked about in the last video, sitting in that mindset for an extended period of time is not healthy for us as women. It leads to burnout, it leads to exhaustion, it leads to, just repression of our emotions and becoming hard, which is not what we're meant to be as women, right? So again, sometimes we do step into that role occasionally and then step back, but any extended time in this role is in this mindset is not good for us. So these tips are to help us stay in our feminine mindset, especially for those of us, like, again, I rolled in the masculine mindset for years and years of my life, okay, right? So for me, having these tips helps me remember to not just veer off into this lane, but to stay in my own. Because it's much happier and more pleasant over here as a woman. First tip is to trust God, okay? Because as we grow in our walk with God, as we get closer to Him, as we learn to trust Him with providing for us, with protecting us, with keeping us safe, all of the things, as we trust Him more, He, of course, being the ultimate example of godly masculinity, right, will fulfill the void or whatever lack there is in the men in your life, whatever it may be. He will fill that void so that way you don't have to step into it, right? If we trust Him, then we know that He will provide for us. If we trust Him, we know that He is going to protect us from harm, right? If we trust God, we know that He is going to be merciful towards us and kind towards us, and He will eventually give us the desires of our hearts if they're in His will, right? So as we trust Him, it fills this role in the masculine role, so then we can easily step back and be feminine, right? Be soft with God, be vulnerable, to tell Him all of the things we're going through, whatever emotions we're dealing with, stuff like that. We're able to express our emotions instead of repressing them as you would do if you're sitting in masculine energy, We're able to be relational and just nurturing and all of the things that, come along with femininity and a feminine mindset. And in order to do that, we have to trust God. Because if we don't trust God, it's just way too easy to go back into the masculine mindset. So trusting him is the number one tip, the most important. If you look at all the women in the Bible, okay, usually the ones who got in trouble or the ones who did things that were kind of out of line with what God was wanting for them is because they stepped back from trusting God, right? Abraham and Sarah, right? Sarah, they were given the promise that Abraham was going to father many nations, right? Sarah trusted God for a long time, but when she stepped back from that trust and started questioning that trust and doubted that trust, that's when she got into trouble by having her maid, end up sleeping with Abraham, and a whole bunch of drama ensued with that, right? But when we actually trust him, and when all the women in the Bible, the ones who trusted him, right, they end up doing well. They end up being called righteous later on. They end up having better stories than those who step back and stop trusting him and step into the masculine mindset. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the three other ones here are ones that are not as, they might seem a little bit more surface level, but I'm going to talk about them to show you what's what. Number two is to practice being soft, okay? Because let's face it, if you're like me and you spent a good deal of time in a masculine mindset, you learned by necessity to kind of tuck your emotions away, to not acknowledge them and try not to feel them. You learned how to repress that softness, that innate, wanting to reach out and empathize with others, or reach out and be soft with someone, feeling for somebody else, You learn to repress that in a masculine mindset, because a masculine mindset is to get things done. And to get things done, you're usually not too into the emotions. You kind of put them aside to go more logical, right? When we're trying to stay in a feminine mindset, it's important for us to allow ourselves, right, to feel those emotions, even if they're uncomfortable, right? To allow ourselves to do things like cry if you're watching a movie and there's a sad scene in it, or a super happy scene and it makes you want to cry tears of joy. To allow ourselves to be vulnerable, right? To be vulnerable with God, to trust God, right? To be honest with him, I think it's honestly easier to trust God a lot of the times than it is to trust other people. Personally, it's easier for me to go to God with all of my emotions, right? Whatever they may be, if they're happy, sad, whatever, and express them to him and ask him questions and just really have an open intimacy and a heart-to-heart with him, and to be completely and totally vulnerable and honest with him, than it is kind of to do it with other people. But you can practice being soft by first going to him with those things, right? Because we know that he is going to be faithful with those things. And, it's not like he's going to betray us or do anything stupid. So we know that we can go to God with these things. And practice going to him and being soft and being vulnerable. Because once you are doing that on a regular basis with him, and you're getting your needs met there, your emotional needs, right? Then it's easier to transfer that to being soft with other people, right? To showing emotions around other people. Stuff like that. Another thing with practicing being soft is our language. I'm still working on this one, guys, okay? When you grow up around a lot of masculine mindset, and I'm not saying that all masculine men are, using very harsh language or cursing or things like that, but it's something that's kind of associated more with that end of the spectrum than with the feminine end of the spectrum, right? You put two women next to each other, right? And one who is speaking very politely, kindly, and using a softer tone of voice is going to read as more feminine than the exact same woman dressed the exact same way who's cursing like a sailor, or, just using very harsh or vulgar language, right? So if we practice using the softer language, the more, shall we say, empathetic language, language that isn't completely vulgar and crass, we come across as more feminine. It helps us stay in a more feminine mindset, right? Using that kind of language. For those of you, if you are like myself, who grew up around a lot of people who used a lot of vulgar language, it can be a difficult habit to break, but it's totally worth it. Let's see, what's the other one? That's the end of number 2. Okay, we're on to number 3. If you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my notes. Number 3 is being aware of our body, okay? Because anything we've got going on in our minds, right, is going to show up in the way we carry ourselves in our bodies, right? So you see women who are going in a masculine mindset, usually they are moving very quickly and very decidedly, maybe stomping, they might have more body language that's, more tense, stuff like that. Usually, because women who are sitting in that kind of mindset for a long time are usually stressed out, right? So it reads in your body, it reads in the way that you hold yourself, that you carry yourself, arms crossed versus, at your sides, stuff like that. But if we are aware of our body, right? If we are aware of, hey, when I'm stressed out or when I get into this mindset, my shoulders tense up a lot. Or noticing that, hey, my walk becomes very decided and very stomp-like and, very militant when I get into this mindset. As you become aware of these things, then you can deliberately, right, pull yourself back into a feminine mindset by being aware of your body and changing the way your body's acting. It's a weird one to, it's a weird tip to put into practice sometimes, but it does work. Like, if I'm stressed about something or whatever, I will pull myself into my body and be like, okay, I'm really tensing up my face right now. I'm tensing up my shoulders. Let me consciously relax those muscles, right? Consciously slow down my walk. Consciously, do different things with the muscles in my face so they don't look so, resting bee face, you know what I mean? Okay. Yeah. What is this? Yeah, this is number 4. We're on number 4. Number 4 is something that, yes, gets tossed around a lot, but I think people take it and try to fluff it off as more shallow than what it really is. And a tip for staying in a feminine mindset and staying in feminine energy, right, is to dress in a way that makes us feel feminine and feel confident in ourselves and feel good about ourselves and feel attractive, okay? Let me explain. Because when we feel frumpy, right? Let's face it, women, you know what I'm talking about. When you wear those really baggy sweatpants, and you know which ones I'm talking about, you have them, you pull them out probably like when you're on your period or something, right? When you are wearing those really baggy, frumpy clothes that you do not feel attractive in, that you don't feel confident in, that you don't feel feminine in, your mindset goes to being like grumpy and not obviously coming across as though you don't feel attractive, right? And you just have a different mindset when you are wearing clothes that you don't feel good in, okay? Yes, I know it sounds shallow or it sounds weird, but when you are actively wearing clothes, and this doesn't mean that you have to wear like ball gowns every stinking day, guys. I'm talking about, just clothes that you feel confident in, that you feel feminine in, okay? This could be as simple as something as jeans and a t-shirt, but if they're ones that are flattering to your figure and you feel confident in them, you're going to have a more feminine mindset, right? For me personally, okay, I feel like there is a spectrum of feminine clothing, right? You've got sweats and casual wear and stuff like that over here, right? You get into like pants and, more professional types thing, pants and nice tops, right? Then you get into like skirts, maybe dresses that are on the casual side, and then you get like fancy pants wear, okay? Like you're going to a wedding or something, right? Most of us live somewhere in the middle. A lot of people are gravitating towards the sweatpants these days, but let's face it, you're going to feel better about yourself if you're somewhere here in the middle, right? For me, that includes wearing skirts because I just can't stand pants. Personally, it's not a religious thing. It's just, I don't like pants. They don't fit my tall frame very well. So for me, I wear casual skirts, right? And there is a difference for me between a casual skirt that I feel good in versus a casual skirt that I feel kind of frumpy and I'm doing chores around the house in, right? But if we wear things that make us feel good, and I'm not talking about things that are immodest or flaunting what you've got, right? I'm just talking about an outfit that makes you feel confident, classy, makes you feel put together, like just makes you feel better about yourself, right? Because when you put those clothes on, you then take on a mindset of feeling good about yourself. And if you're feeling good about yourself, you're more likely to be sitting in your feminine energy and rolling like a woman, right? It correlates. Whether people think it's shallow or not, it does correlate, okay? And of course, you can be in feminine clothes that are practical for whatever it is you do during the day, okay? A mom of 3 running around with little ones can be in feminine clothes and still be practical, right? She doesn't have to wear like some fancy dress. She could wear like a casual shirt dress or a skirt, a casual cotton skirt, or even jeans with a, nice top, it's got a little lace or something on it. Whatever. You can be feminine and be practical at the same time, and I think that's where people get confused, is they think that those two just don't go together, but they do. They totally do. Now, in the Bible, the only thing, it talks about us, our wardrobe, it talks about us being modest, right? So not showing off all the bits. The only other real particular thing it talks about is in Deuteronomy, chapter 22, verse 5. It says, the woman, now this is God talking, okay? It says, the woman shall not wear, this is God talking. Yep. It says, the woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment, for all that do so are abomination unto the Lord thy God. So basically, God said, don't go cross-dressing, okay? He said, don't wear things that don't belong to your sex. Because the thing is, and I think it goes deeper than just, God being like, I don't want you to wear something that's not, going with your gender, okay? And in the Bible, your gender goes along with your chromosomes. XX is a woman, XXY is a dude, okay? That's just how it works. But God, has multiple reasons for saying things, okay? And when he said this, I think a lot of it, besides, having people confused when they look at you as to whether you're a man or a woman, also it goes into, a woman wearing something that belongs to a man is going to then subconsciously take on masculine traits. In the same way that a man wearing something that belongs to a woman is going to take on feminine traits, right? God wanted us to not have to deal with that, right? He wants us to be able to be clear in who we are and to be clear in men in their masculinity and women in their femininity. He wants us to be what he made us to be. That way we can be fully free, right? Because when we are, as women, sitting in our femininity and acting on it, right? And just being who God made us to be, we are happier, right? We are happier, we are more joyful, we are having a better time in life. It's better for us. It's better for our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health, all of the things for us to be acting out who we are meant to be, who God made us to be, right? And that, I think, is the end of these tips. So, 4 tips. If you have any other tips that you want to throw into the conversation, by all means, put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. These are the 4 that just came to my mind when I was thinking about making this video, but if you have others, I'd love to hear about them. All right, I'll talk to you guys next time.